Good morning, folks. Welcome to another episode of Something More Than Gibberish. This is episode 52. And today I have the pleasure of featuring someone from my own neighbourhood, Shyaire Ganglani, or Cherie Says on Instagram. She's a comedian, a poet, an author that's played and featured, or performed, I should say, in a poetry and a comedy on a global stage, Europe, the Arabic nations, and all in all, she's just an amazing person. She features or hosts a lot of open mic sessions here in my vicinity. Really looking forward to having her on today. Hopefully she's not too far away and we can get this show on the road. Yeah, Cherie is just a beautiful soul, and she's known as Shy to most of her friends. I'm still to get to one of her comedy gigs. Hi, Tom. But I do hear her perform her poetry from quite regularly at open mic sessions. Now, I know she does lead quite a busy life between her comedy gigs and hosting lives, in-person sessions, or performing. I hope she hasn't slept in, because it is Saturday morning for me. So fingers crossed she hasn't slept in and will be joining us very soon. Hey, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
So good to see you. I was just thinking, I know you live a busy life with your features and your comedy gigs. I said, hope she hasn't slept in. But lately, Instagram's been doing some weird ass stuff where it's not showing when somebody's live, and other times it does, or normally it's all up left, other times they're hidden further to the right. Anyway, here we are. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Shy, it's been a long time coming. I've been wanting to feature you on this show for so long, and I know you live a busy lifestyle with your poetry, your hosting, your comedy gigs, and on a global stage as well. So I really admire what you do, and it honestly is an absolute pleasure to be able to showcase you, your work, your journey on a global platform. Your work I really do admire. I love your pieces. Obviously, every
Thank
time
you.
I hear you perform them live, and having that almost like a theatrical background, I guess, in your comedy gigs and so forth, when you're present, you
Yeah.
convey the emotion and all that so well, so easily. And I always admire people who can memorize their work, because I can't even memorize
Yeah.
a three-line haiku that I write. So I really the
I think it's so hard to I have problems memorizing my work too, to be honest. Especially when it comes to poetry, because you have to do it in such a um like stinted format, or like, yeah, a format that doesn't feel natural to conversation, so it feels like a performance, rather than with comedy you actually don't have to memorize exactly how it's said. You just have to memorize the story, and then how you tell that might be different every time.
yeah, right. Also, your enunciations as part of your accent as well really supports that poetry recital, I find
Yeah.
anyway. The
Yeah.
clarity, because sometimes us Aussies can really bastardize the English language, right? But you
Yeah.
don't. You really uh, Yeah, we got a unique way of wrecking words of the English language, but no, you do a fantastic job. So tell me, Shai, where did it all start? Was it the comedy? Was it the writing? Or what even got you into it to begin with?
Ooh, um, I guess it's a two-part answer. Firstly, thanks for having me. I haven't even said that. Thank you for having me on this
It's an
podcast.
honor, my friend. It's an honor.
And there's a mutual respect there, and I really, really like your work too. So, yeah, thank you. Um, I guess I I've always kind of written. I've always been writing. I think since I was 12 or 13, I was pretty much it started by writing like letters to friends in like hallways between classes, and I would constantly like write them updates of like what happened in my last class, and it very quickly became uh like something people fought over, being like, did you get a letter? Because I got a letter. And I think as I grew older, I realized that like there was this currency that I was not aware of, that I had to give out into the world, that people clearly saw. And it was because in those letters to them, I think I would pepper like how much I miss them, how class is not the same without them. And there was this like language that I think, always held deep inside me with words that I was not able to have one on one with a person verbally, and express myself in that way. And then as I grew older, and as I kind of like had crushes, or have family pain, or whatever it is that people go through, like my way of expressing that, instead of just telling someone, hey, I like you, or hey, you hurt me, was to kind of write about it. And again, I didn't have the language to even know that that was poetry, even though my name in Hindi actually means poetry. And so it does feel a little bit faded that, of course, I always wrote. I don't think it was, it's weird because I don't think I was meant. I think there's a lot of people who think they were meant to write poetry. I don't think I was meant to write poetry, but I think that like poetry was always meant to be there for me. And I've known that my whole life. And I didn't know that I didn't even know what spoken word was until 3 years ago, I want to say. About 4 years ago, um, I was in Amsterdam, and I went to this strange bar called Labyrinth, and I went there on a date, and it wasn't a very good date. Um, but it was like a Caribbean bar, and it was a poetry bar, and I didn't know what a poetry bar was. And they had like poetry cocktails, and at the end of the night, I spoke to the bar owner, who was this older Caribbean man, who said, um, you should come back because we have poetry night. And I was telling him how much I love that it's poetry themed and that my name means poetry. And I was like, what's poetry night? And he was like, people just come read their poetry. And I was like, what? Like on the mic. I had no idea this was a thing. I really, like, I had never come across it. I'd seen slam poetry, which was more akin to like beat poetry and rap to me. And that's not something I ever thought I could do. So I just had inspirations of people that I loved, but I never thought you could just go read your stuff on a mic. And then I went back and I read 2 weeks later after watching my first week, and I was so nervous that I had to like go to the bathroom and have a little stew before. Um, and I just didn't, yeah, I guess I never really looked back. As dumb as that sounds, I did it, and then I was in Amsterdam for maybe 4 months, and I did it every week without fail, and I really sucked the entire time I was there. I was so nervous, and I was forgetting lines on the page, and I didn't know what I was doing. And then I came back to Melbourne, and at Radio Bar, Vibe Union's poetry night, I was walking like on Brunswick Street, and I literally just saw a flyer for it. And I was like, thank God, there's a poetry night here too. I can go to this. And then I went to that poetry night, and that's how poetry started.
Well, again, another reason why I admire you. So it's bad enough performing for the first time in your own locality, in your comfort zone. Here you are in a foreign land, uh, different culture, different people. different likes and dislikes, and here you are, you go and break your debut open mic in person performance on a foreign land. Shai, I really do admire people with strength and courage to step out of that boundary, and you do that.
Thank you.
You know, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know if I would have felt just as comfortable to do that. I mean, now I would, but like as my first debut performance in a foreign land, I guess you had some friends, but for the large, you would, they're strangers, right?
Yeah, I think, but I don't know if everyone feels this way. Maybe I assumed that everyone does. I guess it isn't it easier to do things in front of like strangers or when you're on holiday and you don't know anyone and you have nothing to lose. Um, and that I think that's why I feel like this about performing or doing comedy on a global stage rather than doing it in Melbourne. Because in Melbourne, I just at any given point when I post something on my Instagram, I have to expect that someone might show up that I know. And if I'm not doing my best, it's embarrassing. Whereas if I don't know anyone, then the pressure's kind of off.
That's true. That's true. I guess from the way I was looking at it was like where we met up at Creatures of Habit
Yeah.
Bar with the Art Union show. Most of the gigs around here, they're very safe spaces. You're amongst friends, even if you screw up, nobody cares. They support you.
Yeah.
But the unknown when you're in a strange land, how would that go? I guess that's probably the. But you're right. On the other aspect, if you don't know anybody, who cares? You're probably never going to see these people again. So you can.
Yeah. I mean, it's also less fun, to be honest. Um it like you say, it's less support if you mess up. And but it's less fun to when you do well, or like if you're doing a slam poetry contest. I did a slam in Hackney last year, I think in September, and I thought to myself, yeah, you're about to get shown up. Like, there is not a lot of Black excellence in Australia on these stages comparatively to the UK and the US, and other countries. And you're about to realize that you are a big fish in a small pond that is Australia.
Mhm.
And it is go off and win slams there, but like, how are you going to perform on like a global stage where there's Black excellence in the middle of Hackney, where it feels like poetry was invented?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
other than maybe New York, London would be the second cultural capital of where this happens. Um, and I went up onto a weird little cinema stage and did a slam contest because my friend messaged me the details to it the day before my birthday, and I won. And I didn't think that I
Yeah.
would. And I didn't have three poems before. I didn't prepare three poems. Like, I didn't even have, and I certainly didn't have a third one in my back pocket because I thought, even if you know one by heart and you kind of know that you'll probably read the new one, second, you're not getting to the third
Yeah.
round.
Yeah.
Like, it's London, it's Hackney. And the minute I walked in and I saw how much diverse thought there was in the room, and how many beat poets there were, and how much rhythm they had, and how many people had memorized their work, I was like, cool, you're not bringing it home. And you're just lucky to be amongst this kind of talent.
Well, that's incredible. You're right. We are a very small pond. But I've got to say, within this small pond, and just in my circle, I don't really travel interstate. When I travel interstate, it's with work, and I don't normally have time to go and visit open mics and all in Sydney, Brisbane, Perth, whatever. So I'm pretty much focused around Melbourne. And just in that little circle, hear people like you perform, Haley, Lane, and there's some incredible talent there or for a small pond. We've got some really, really good talent here. I've featured Haley on this show before, and
Yeah.
she is amazing. And, people like Lane I hear week to week.
Oh,
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's and when I say that, and I think the reason that I lent into it with like saying like it's a small pond, yes, and it's not to say that it's not an extremely
Mm,
talented small pond.
mm,
It's just when you go into the bigger world, whether it's the Edinburgh Fringes or London or New York or wherever it is, places I haven't even been to perform yet. Um, you there's a thought that you have in your head, which is that like that there's going to be a certain caliber,
mm, mm.
and whether that's because of just the sheer amount of access to diversity they have, or is it because it's just a
Yeah,
numbers game,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and because of the numbers and the how many people they get and how many different types of people they get um interested in art, it's so fiercely competitive.
yeah, yeah. I actually, my personal view, it's great that you've got that intellectual respect for the arena you're getting into. Because I think it stimulates that what we call eustress, and eustress is actually very good for us, right? It's what gets a athlete that eustress before any race gets the adrenaline going and helps them to perform. And the very fact that you've already got that eustress, which is a good stress, it's not like a de-stress, which is dysfunctional,
Yeah.
where it actually uplifts your performance and puts you on the, and it's very clear. Even the way, even when you host, a lot of people can host shows, but very few do it really well. The way you manage the crowd. I remember when we were back in the old radio bar, there was somebody being quite obnoxious, and the way you handle them, just
Mhm.
I guess that
Mhm.
experience from even your comedy gigs as well, which you'd have to handle some boisterous crowds, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah, yeah.
It really comes out, and you do that so well. In 1 minute you're very supportive and going, and then when you need to, you can just cut somebody off at the knees very well
Yeah.
because song and dance, just two lines and bang, and that takes talent to me as well to do it well.
Yeah. I think some people are not like I think I'm extremely lucky in that I have a very boisterous, naturally boisterous personality, and um it it wasn't until I felt comfortable with the mic that I realized, after going to radio bar a week after week after week, or every 2 weeks rather, that I quite like that I would always do this blurb before my poem, and that I would always get like a little bit of audience feedback, and Jason would always kind of like rush me on and be like, hurry up, you have 5 minutes. um and I was like, I seem to really like the mic, and I seem to really like talking to the crowd, and that seems to be a very natural part of my personality. And props to those boys, and props to Radio Bar and Vibe Union, because I would not be here without them. Like, um they were the ones who pushed me to host when Jason was out of play once. Like, I think he was, whatever he was doing, and they didn't ask all of the regulars who had been there for many many months and years doing it. They turned around and kind of went, look, you seem to never shut up on the mic, and how about you come for 3 hours or 2 hours and you get on the mic and you host. And the feedback that I received from that night, because it was probably my first time doing anything other than a 5 minute poetry piece on a mic,
Yeah.
um, was from people kind of like poking jokes, and we were all laughing that like I'm going to take over, and it was much funner than Jason, and I'd like send him lots of photos and videos saying like I had so much fun. I had so much fun, and I think that the takeaway for me was everyone could see that, and because I was having fun, they were having fun,
Yeah.
and because they were having fun, I was having fun. And it was Jason and Rye who said to me like, why, like, Radio Bar has a comedy, they didn't host it, but them constantly saying like, oh, Radio Bar has comedy night, you should do it. And Paul, who owned that bar, just being like, you should do comedy. And I remember saying I would rather kill myself than do comedy, because I frankly don't hate myself that much. Like, why would I put my life out there for people to laugh at? And look at me now. I suppose I hate myself just the right amount.
When the first time I attended Vibe Union was in that period when Jason was away and you were hosting, and I actually thought you were the regular host because you looked so comfortable there. That was my
Yeah.
very. You probably remember that day when you just came in there,
Yeah, I absolutely remember that day because, like I said, to me, I was it in a lot of ways. It was a day that kind of like changed my life. Um, and again, maybe I just have like commitment issues, saying I really like love something and want to commit to it for life. But I don't like I say changed my life. I don't know that poetry or comedy or performing is something that I will do
Mm.
lifelong. Like I think I flip flop and I have a very similar relationship to it that a lot of performers have. It's a love hate
Yeah.
relationship. I love it when I do well. I hate it when it's not that I hate it when I do badly. It's actually that I hate it when it burns me out.
Yes. Correct. Correct. But it becomes like a job
Yeah,
where it's yeah, yeah, yeah. And I guess it's also different styles of writing. Like a lot of my writing is based on my life's journey.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I've got to live life, otherwise I run out of material to live, to
correct,
write.
correct.
Whereas other writers, they can sit there and write about bubbling springs and rainbows, right? They can,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
Whereas for me, when it's about life and the life's hardships, the life's lessons, the growth through life, I've got to live life. I've got to feel pain. I've got to have joy. I've got to have some wild moments. Otherwise, I've got to interact with people. So I couldn't do it full time. I really could not.
No, I mean props to people who can because, like you say, like what are you what what are they writing about? Like
Yeah.
if you're not living it, then how are you writing it? And I think sure, there's a someone asked uh one of my friends recently about their art, and they're a filmmaker, and asked, are all of your scripts extremely self-referential? And I kind of jumped in and felt extremely defensive on her part, um, because I was like, what else are you meant to write
Mm,
about?
mm,
I
mm,
mean, I guess even when I say that when I say, even when I am writing about Palestine, I am writing about it from my point of view, and I'm writing about it from the way that it affected me.
mm,
Otherwise,
mm,
I would be a historian or a professor and I'm not those things. I'm not trying to educate people on the genocide that is happening.
mm.
I'm trying to write about how it is affecting me, who technically has nothing to do with
Yeah.
it, when I need people to know that everyone has something to do with it. And this is my point of view.
Yes. And that's a very valid point because that is a hot topic, like Ukraine is as well. But if you looked at that Palestine-Israel instance, that you can only write about what how it impacts you here and today, because otherwise, that has gone back as far back as biblical times. The Bible references about the Palestinians and the
Yeah,
Israelites, right? It goes all the way back and it's never stopped. There's
yeah,
always been something. So
yeah,
how do we write about something 2,000 years ago
yeah.
or 2,025 years ago or
You can
to now?
write about it now. And I think like that, and I mean, now we're going into politics, but I think that like the I say the conservatives are the right wing or like the opposition, whatever it is, however you want to put that, like whether it's when it's an anti-marginalized community like that wants to not take accountability for actions, and you're talking about and a prime example is Australia and Indigenous lives, or any kind of colonizer. They don't want to take accountability for the actions, so they just turn around and point the finger on the past. But the thing is that like we're not talking about the past. We're talking about like how the voice, they still manage to confuse everyone and into a no vote. We're talking about modern day slavery, racism. We're not talking about like they point and kind of go, it's all in the past, leave it in the past. Or yeah, we know it was so bad 100 years ago. It's not about that. It's about today. It's what Israel's doing right now as we speak in this moment. And when our art covers that,
Mhm.
about whether it's in a factual or statistical way, but with passion, when our art brings the focus to what is happening right now, then I think it kind of forces people to have like an accountability for now that they're not taking.
I always adopted the attitude of looking at the past, learning from it, and trying to make changes today
Yeah,
for tomorrow.
yeah,
I don't get stuck in that past.
yeah,
There's some valuable lessons there to be learned
100%.
for today. So, yeah. Now, you've also performed um, in Europe, Amsterdam, etc. Where are the places you've performed? I know you've performed globally. Even
Yeah.
even late last year, you took off, or early this year, you took off for a few months traveling and performing, didn't you?
Yeah, I did in what was it earlier this year? It was Melbourne Comedy Festival, but in September last year it was August rather. August and September was Edinburgh Fringe.
Hmm.
Um and I did Brown Women comedy there and produced it as well as I guess emceed and did the comedy like 10-minute routine. Um, and then after that, I did London, and I did comedy and poetry there. But before that, so my journey is that I'm one hell of an impatient person, um, and I don't know how to just kind of take the usual route. And so when I started in poetry, and then I went into comedy after that at Radio Bar, and then moved from doing that to doing all these other open mics in Melbourne. And then I went traveling for the year before. I went traveling for, I want to say, 3 or 4 months.
Hmm.
Um, and during those 3 months, I was in Berlin, and I was in Amsterdam, and I was in Paris, and I was in London, and I decided that I would do comedy or poetry, but mostly comedy in at least 3 nights, like at least three spots in each
Yeah,
city. And it was a holiday.
yeah,
I had nothing to do.
yeah.
Like, I didn't know anyone in most of those cities. Some of the comedy nights wasn't even English speaking audiences. I
Wow.
had to speak kind of slowly. Um, and I took myself through like, and I was literally just going to open mics. I went online, I found a bunch of open mics on Instagram. I did 2 or 3 a night in each city I went to. I took myself on like a world tour, and then I went back to Dubai, which is where I grew up, and I did comedy over there to kind of wrap it and like put a neat bow on it. And then I came back to Melbourne, and that year, which was last year, I ended up doing proper, like I actually started doing comedy festivals. Like I did Adelaide Fringe, and then I did Melbourne Comedy Festival, and then I did Edinburgh Fringe, um, and then I burnt out.
Yeah. I do admire the fact that you push your limits all the time. I mean, to do comedy in a where your language isn't even their mother tongue. I mean, that's really pushing the envelope, right?
I mean, I think that's unhinged.
But no doubt it was you learned from the experience, and I'm sure it was a success.
Yeah. Look, I can't. Oh, I don't know what I just did there. Did I just
No,
turn something on?
no,
Okay.
all good.
Um, yeah, I think that uh, there's a, how do I put this? It's easier and probably lazier to throw yourself in the deep end
Mm, mm,
than it is to go about it methodically and wait your turn and learn from the greats and apply for the things and wait your turn. Basically, I'm so impatient, and I don't sit and learn and go to classes and courses and take the usual route. Like, and when I think of, I work in advertising. I'm a creative director. I'm a writer in advertising, so that's my day job. Um, I, an example for me is everyone I know who's in advertising in Australia. Not everyone I know, sorry. A lot of people in the Australian advertising industry do this thing called Award School, which is a 12-week program to do it. And the greats usually get something on the wall, which is like their work on the wall, or they come in the top 10. um, I did not get anything on the wall. I did not come in the top 10, and I very nearly dropped out and didn't submit my final portfolio.
Mm.
I finally made it through all of those stages, and it was like the longest 12 weeks of my life. Um, but I went to the graduation with a sandwich board on myself of my own ideas because I claimed that I was the wall, which is extremely obnoxious, but um, so stupid that it ended up getting me a job in the industry anyway,
Yeah.
just by way of being ballsy and gutsy. And when I joined the industry, a year later, I was offered to tutor award school.
Mm.
And I think for me, it was like I have that attitude about comedy, and I have that attitude about poetry. It's like I've never I've never been on an APS. I've never been on the Australian Poetry Slam stage, and I've always kind of thought about it, but I like something I don't know. Something's always um, gotten in the way, for the lack of a better like I've thought about it and then I can't, it's too far away. Like something's always come up and it hasn't been the right time. And I keep seeing Lane and wonderful people and Jason and like people just absolutely kill it and being so happy and a little bit envious. And I've wanted to be like them. And then I've had people reach out from that community and be like, would you like to host one of our heats? And it's the same thing. It's kind of like, I just don't take the regular way. I
Mm.
kind of go, what if I just start near the finish line? And then I look behind me and go, I wonder if anyone noticed that I didn't really walk here. Like it's a strange thing.
I love it. I love it. The I was going to say to those out of Melbourne, the Melbourne Comedy Festival. It's a yearly event that goes for what, 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, it goes
Yeah,
for about 5 weeks.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's on every night, and there's comedians from around the world that come and perform here in Melbourne. And every night there's multiple gigs that you could go to. So if ever you're visiting Melbourne, folks, do in that time when the it's March,
It's
April, May, March.
it's the end of April, I believe.
Yeah,
No, I'm sorry, my months are all messed up. It is yeah, you're right. It just ended and it was till mid-April. Basically, it's halfway through March and then it
yeah.
goes till mid-April.
Yeah, if ever you're visiting Melbourne around that time, you're in for a treat. And this lady does perform in that gig, and it's a all the auditoriums are all the bars, the rooms are filled with international comedians, and Shy is a regular there. I'm still to get to one of your comedy shows. I really must get to it. I really want to see. I can see how that your kind of humor will gel with me, and I really got to get to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, shall we get into
Yeah.
sharing a piece of yours and to showcase to the world of what we've been talking about?
Um, sure. I don't know that my weekend brain is quite so capable of doing one from memory without some note. Um, but I guess I'll start with the one that I truly think um, was the first piece I ever wrote for performance that made me think I might have something.
Yeah,
um, yeah, and I think that's the first piece that probably won me the first slam I ever won. So um, yeah, I'll start with that one. And I I heard somewhere on a podcast recently that when you've had privilege, equality feels like oppression.
mm,
And I guess this poem is a bit of an ode to that.
That's a very profound statement you just made.
Yeah. Um, cool. I guess I just go into it. I've never done a poem on a podcast, so thank you. It's a travesty, the patriarchal casualty, a gendered misdiagnosis, and who asked for this? To be owned, to be his, to be woman, to be cis. Why did they get to decide? What's wrong, what's right, what's worth the fight, the troubles of our plight, the unsafety of each night. That if it's dark, we can't walk the walk. Just lose the snark. Don't talk the talk. She's too much, too loud. Not a feminist, just a little proud. We don't begrudge, we're not allowed to voice our opinions out loud. How dare we go for an equal pie? The first piece must go to the guy. Oh, you don't know him? He's Chris, blah blah's son from footy practice. Here, have a seat at the table. And then they wonder why we're unstable when we're willing and we're able, but we're too bossy and we're too weak and other nonsense labels. Fuck that. I'm such a gold digger, so pick up that bill. I'm such a slut, so give me my fill. I'm such a man eater, so let me climb that hill and I won't come back down. You know why? Because it's a travesty. The patriarchal casualty of surrendered sovereignty, a gendered misdiagnosis. And who asked for this?
Wow, every line in that piece carried so much power and so much truth. Um, that's very relatable.
Thank you.
Not about something out there. It's something that we see in our that we saw in our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, we see in today's generation, and probably see it in the next generation.
Yeah, thank you.
Hopefully, less and less.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. And I think that piece to me was like the first time I had written something that wasn't just so personal to me without like as you say like relatable. Like I'd written it and kind of gone, this isn't about just me. This is about my rage, but this is about like rage on behalf of every woman who is sat in a boardroom or been really frustrated that they feel misheard or walked amongst people in society. And it isn't, to be honest, it's not just about women, right? It's like, it's about race, it's about
Yeah,
any marginalized voice, about queer folks.
yeah,
Like, yeah, it's just about kind of saying, great, you're an activist and you have rage. Can you just go scream about it at your little protest and not bring your rage to our conversation?
yeah.
Like, can you not begrudge this? Like, just go and talk about it at tea time.
Mm,
Don't
mm,
inconvenience me with all of this that I don't have to think about outside of my bubble. And that's where this came
yeah.
from for me.
And you would have been, I'm assuming, you would have witnessed this even through your growth growing up in the Middle East, and then you'd witness it here within, well, within business, in the business world. You'd see it on daily street life as well, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And I mean, the Middle East was a completely different ball game, and I don't think I would have ever discovered yeah, I don't think I would have discovered my love for being on the mic
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Even though there is a scene, and now when I go back and perform, I think you have to go outside yourself sometimes
Mm,
to like, and that's why maybe that's why I enjoy traveling
mm.
to do this stuff so much rather than I find Melbourne Comedy Festival the hardest one
Yeah,
because
right.
I'm amongst my own people and I'm amongst my own life. It's so tiring when you're amongst your own life because it doesn't there's a I'm I think it's extremely relatable to say this. I think a lot of people feel this way. There's an energy that you get from an adrenaline that you get from newness, like being a new place and around new people that you just cannot manufacture
Yeah,
when it's in your daily life.
yeah. The what I was saying before, your enunciation and your delivery, even the cadence that you even delivered that piece in, really, it perfectly allows for the power of the words to sink in, for the listener to digest. Um, that was amazing. Sometimes I find with like any slam type stuff, particularly, it goes so fast that my mind latches onto one line and I miss the next six good lines. Whereas that cadence that you delivered in that way, I could absorb every line and feel, and your enunciation, the emotion there, literally put me in your eyes looking at the subject,
Thank
and that's a
you.
talent on its own. It really is.
Thank you. I think it's interesting that you raised the enunciation and an accent, I guess. Uh, because I think when I first started performing, I very much thought that the enunciation and well, not the enunciation, but the accent was going to make me less relatable to the audience that is Australian, and less give me less, I guess, gravitas in their eyes. Uh, and maybe because I have I have an international accent, but because it sounds American, and I think I know there's a little bit of hate for Americans globally, and I understand why. Like the minute someone opens their mouth and they have an American accent, usually you see 10 Australians in the back of the room rolling their eyes, being like, "Here we go," and I was scared. I was scared that that was gonna happen. But I think including you, the first time I met you, and many other people that I've come across now on this journey, especially poetry rather than comedy, have come up after and said that like it is so much more powerful
Hmm.
in a sea of sameness where we hear the same accent and cadences, and whatever it is, we hear people's Australian voices, and then you come on and you do it and it stands out so much. And I've been it's made me find a love for my own literal voice
Yeah,
and tone and accent. And
it d- does. I've lost your audio. Yep, I can hear you now. I lost you a minute
yeah,
there.
my Instagram limit was over for the day. um but yeah, I think it performances, I think a lot of performers will say this, including you, but maybe I know that you for a fact that you learn a lot about yourself through performing,
Yeah,
um which seems ridiculous when you're telling people on the outside, because they're like, what, but you're sharing something you pre-prepared, so what could you possibly learn about yourself other than I'm brave or I'm scared? But there are so many little things, like the accent and finding love. I found a lot of love for myself through performing,
mm,
and
mm,
being able to apply that in work, in my
yeah.
daily job, um, has been so valuable.
Definitely. Yeah. Like I find when I get on stage and I expose parts of me, my vulnerable side through my pieces, when I get to a work presentation where I'm talking about a subject matter that's nothing to do with my person, it's easy, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's I don't know. I guess it's your podcast, so feel free to say I don't want to answer your questions. But um, yeah, do you feel like do you learn about yourself on the mic?
110%, 110%. And every time I perform, I remember one time I try to respect the time limit, that 5 minutes, especially if there's a big audience. So one time I had two pieces that happened to be a bit longer, and I found with the I was rushing through the pieces, and the whole impact of the piece wasn't there, was lost. So learn go with one piece if you
Yeah.
need to, but
Yeah.
time and let like you just recited that piece where I really appreciated having each line sink in. I'd now quite often just do one piece. Number one, to allow more people to get up on
Yeah.
stage, not just take
Yeah.
it. And the piece that I deliver, go for quality rather than quantity.
Yeah.
Deliver,
Yeah.
I'll take my time, and sometimes I find where my mind might drift, although I haven't lost the line, I've lost the emotion
Yes. Yes.
in what I'm trying to convey. So every time I perform, I constantly go, yeah, I could have done that better, or yeah, I could have done this. There's always, and it doesn't have to be a massive learning. I'm one of those people. I would walk 1,000 miles to hear somebody say three words
I
if I can.
love that.
So
Did you say that or did someone
no,
else say that?
I've lived by that
I
all the
I
time.
love that. I would walk, say that again.
I would walk 1,000 miles to hear three words of value.
I love
If I
that.
if I had to travel from one end of the globe to come and meet you, and you told me three words that triggered off my own thought and gave me answers for it, I would do that.
Yeah.
I don't need a whole book from you.
Yeah.
Just one action, one
Yeah.
story. That's all. People can learn. There's a lot to learn in everyday life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as I say,
Yeah.
as I say to my son, the day I stop learning is when I start fertilizing the daisies.
Yeah. That's, that's great.
Until then, you learn. The so I remember I knew about your hosting, and I knew a little bit about your organizing, because one of the second or third time I met you was when you invited me to come to the event you were hosting at the Malthouse. One
Yes.
and I mean, you were such a natural, and you were busy. I remember you had an injury. You were limping
Oh my
around the place.
God. And I had just flown back from Adelaide Fringe.
That's right.
Oh, for the day, just to turn around and go back to Adelaide Fringe. It was insanity, but sorry I interrupted you.
No, no.
Um, yeah, God, that was I'm very shocked looking back that I did not have a mental breakdown that month. That had to be that had to be pushing myself to my absolute limit. Like it I try to journal every day, if not 4 times a week is like my attempt to keep it consistent. Um, but during that time I had no time, and I think I must have journaled once every 2 weeks.
Mm,
And I tried once a weekend to just sit down and just capture everything that was going on. And when we were moving houses, I found some of my old journals and one from that month and went and flipped back to those pages. And I am clearly just like matter of factly stating everything I have to get done. And like it's just basically like a to-do list in a
mm,
rambling is those journal entries, because I clearly have no capacity for any reflection in that time of my life. Um, and I was doing well, I was working 9 to 5 and at like a big agency. Um, and even though it was a contract job, it was 5 days a
mm,
week. And I had to I'd said yes to doing Adelaide Fringe to help produce it like on the sidelines, like brown women comedy, but also to do it like to perform and MC some nights. And I had forgotten that I had also said yes to the Malthouse thing.
mm,
And the Malthouse thing was, well, it was MCing and, well, curating the hate races poetry, like poetry thing outside. They had an art program called Labyrinth, and the poetry was part of that.
mhm,
Um, and the fact that it was called Labyrinth and the first bar I ever started poetry at was Labyrinth felt like such a full circle moment for me. And I'm obsessed with Maxine Beniba Clark,
Mm.
obsessed with her and everything she does. And so when this opportunity came up, um, but from Vanessa, actually, Vanessa, who's Queen V,
Yeah.
poet and friend of yours too.
Mm.
Um, she passed on that opportunity, and I said yes without even thinking. I didn't check my calendar. I just did. I was like, it's Maxine. Of course it's yes. Um, and then I realized, shit, this is the same weekend as Adelaide Fringe, and I also have a 9 to 5 job. And so this is very extremely me coded in its behaviors. This is exactly what I do now too. But so I can't say it was a one off, but I ended up doing Adelaide Fringe, doing the Malthouse. And now that you point out that I was limping, it makes me realize it was right after Poets for Palestine. Um,
Right.
and so I just finished Poets for Palestine. I had flown to Adelaide Fringe. I was limping around because I got hit by a car when I was on a scooter 3 days before I was moving houses. Um, did Adelaide Fringe, realized, shit, I really messed up and I have to come back for the Malthouse thing. I'll just fly back, get 1 day off Brown Women Comedy, and then come back to Adelaide
Yeah.
the next day.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know how I survived that.
I I I remember you had all the people who were performing that day, while everything was getting organized and
Well,
timing
yeah,
all fell into
because I had to like book them too.
yeah.
That was the wildest part. I had to find the poets, book the poets, yeah,
You,
give them time, certain time, and then pretend like there was an open mic, which there was an open mic, but like it was in South Bank or wherever the Malt House is on a Sunday, which does not get many
yeah.
passerbyers.
Yeah.
So it was just like, oh my God.
But your organizational skills, I remember you placed us all in a room there. There was a lot of refreshments there. And then you'd be back in the main building doing your organizing, all limping here, and coming in to check that people were comfortable there, everything was okay, keeping people informed. It was phenomenal. And I remember, yeah, you'd flown back and you were flying back to Adelaide that night for or the next day back there, and all this you looked like you were in pain all the way through with your leg,
Yeah.
and it was a great
I
event. It really was.
I have since written, I think, a few pieces about not glorifying the hustle.
Yeah,
And I think that time in my life and even in current day, in present day, I have to often go back to those pieces and remember that like being busy is not a personality
yeah.
trait. It is no one is giving me a pat on the back for burning out. And yeah, did I enjoy and did I show up to the best of my ability and stay present at Brown Women Comedy and have a great time in Adelaide and have a fantastic time at the Malthouse and hosting Poets for Palestine and all of those things? Yes. But I wouldn't push myself like that again, and I wouldn't encourage someone else to do that.
I I love to. I've always been one to show appreciation, and I speak for me, but I'm sure echo the thoughts of many, even if they don't voice it. I think we here in this community are blessed to have somebody like you who gives so much and does so much behind the scenes. We come in there 3 hours, 4 hours, we spit our pieces, whatever, hi, bye, have some drinks, whatever, and we go. But the amount that goes behind that, like that Malthouse event, and most people wouldn't know the challenges you went through. So I humbly thank you for all that you do. As you said, we're a small pond to provide and to enable a lot of these events that happen for us.
Yeah.
We're blessed to have people like you.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
It,
Yeah, I could say it's a thankless job, but I would be lying. Um, it is not a thankless job. It is an extremely gratifying and gratitude uh, giving, like, or bringing job behind the scenes. Like, and it's also just, it makes me so incredibly happy and proud to see poets, that whether they're people who've done the workshops that I hosted last year, which was brown women poetry, or it's people that I've just kind of like forced out of comedy into poetry, or forced out of like agency advertising agency land into the poetry space, just because I wanted my, like, I think people are like, wow, you're doing so much to diversify it, and you bring women and you bring people of color, and I do force a lot of my POC friends onto the Slam and Lama stage. Um, but it's more that like it's also selfish. Like, I want to be surrounded by my people.
Mm.
I want my friends. And I think that like I think people assume that someone like me does things for community, and that's amazing.
Yeah,
But I'm not only doing things for community, I'm doing things because building that community is going to benefit me, because I'm going to have a better time and a funner time
yeah.
if I'm there with my friends and people who make me feel safe.
Well, Haley's popped into the room
Hi,
to support you here. You
Haley.
know, another lady. I so love her talent, and I love listening to her perform as well.
She's wonderful. She's probably one of my favorite poets on the scene.
Um, the other benefit I had with that Malthouse, again, thank you for inviting me. I had the pleasure of meeting Denise.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's an amazing lady.
amazing.
And Tabani is awesome. I'm actually featuring Tabani, I think, in the next month or so on this
Oh,
show.
cool.
Yeah,
Oh, he's so good.
he's amazing. And such a beautiful
Oh,
soul, he's just such a lovely guy. Sometimes in a break, we'd be having a chat, and he's just such a calm, genuine, authentic soul. He really is.
he's honestly, uh, Tabani is one of the poets that, like, I'm just shocked at at how humble he
Yes.
is. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm, yeah, it shocks me because if I was that good, I would not be that humble. There's no way. There's just no way. I would be insufferable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's so incredible to see someone that gifted, almost prodigally like.
Yeah.
It makes you think like this can't be a normal amount of talent in one human being, um, be that humble. It's just it's so in. Usually he steps off the stage, and where I used to say the first few times I'd seen his work, I would say flattering things and wow, you're so amazing, and like that was I've been blown away. I've never been blown away like that, and um but now that I know him better, I just tell him how I feel every time he steps off a stage and he's done with a poem. I'm usually like, "Fuck you!" Like, who do you think you are? And it's like that's truly like, it's like there are some people that you see perform and you relate to them and you see yourselves in them, and I think I have that about me.
Yeah.
And then there's some people that you see that you're just like, why am I even doing this?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if this is the bar,
Yeah.
I don't even know. Like, this is hard. This is it's so good that it is borderline inspirational and just towing the line of
Yeah.
intimidating.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I do love being challenged in that way.
Yeah. No, honestly, I'm blessed to have the opportunity to come week in, week out and hear people like the Barney, like Haley, like yourself. And I mean, man, Yaru just popped into the room as well. He'd
Yeah.
a corner from me, and it's great to be able to come and catch up with you guys on a weekly or fortnightly basis.
Yeah.
I'm blessed. Um,
I
now,
mean, yeah, sorry, just segueing into Yaru being in the room. Um, I think we haven't really talked much about comedy, and hopefully we don't, because um, I think Yaru for me is such an important example of like poetry doesn't have to be so serious. Um, and he has this like capability to do earnestness so well,
Mm-hmm.
but then like it's not just earnest, it's so authentic. Like
Mm.
because when he wants to write poetry about poop, he will write poetry about poop, and he will make everyone in the room like laugh and light up, and he just doesn't take himself like so seriously. And to have that in a poet and within someone in community is, I think, so important.
Yeah, definitely. He lives around the corner from me. He's just a beautiful soul, and we always, have a chat whenever we at open mics. The No, we are blessed. The He actually featured on the show probably a month ago, 6 weeks ago, or something.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah. The Before, I meant to say you mentioned it was my podcast, and could you ask a question? I want you to look at this as this is all about you. You can ask, you can take this in any direction. You want to do showcase your comedy skills, you want to showcase your poetry, you want to. This is about putting Shy on that platform so as more people know. We go to an open mic, there might be 100 people there that interact, right, week in, week out. Next week, there might be 20 new different faces. I mean, but with this, I want to show whoever, because I also create a YouTube of this, and I also do a podcast on Spotify, which I'll send you
Oh,
the link
cool.
that you can use any which way you like to promote your work. I want people in some corner of India, some corner of Europe, some corner of the US to hear and know about you and your work. I handpick the people that I feature on this because, and generally, my criteria is people who write pieces of substance that you can expound on, and that someone sitting in a corner of the world who might not have somebody readily accessible to talk to help them. But maybe it's a word or a poem that they heard from you or my featured guest that might be that catalyst for them. Somebody in some developing
Hopefully.
corner might hear that poem you recited before, right? Somebody
Yeah.
oppressed in some form or manner in some corner of the world who doesn't have a parent or a close friend to talk to, your words might be that trigger to give them the strength. And that this show is all about. Hour and 45 minutes is totally, I've got no agenda. I don't got no intention of a direction. It's not about saying, oh, Rainier runs this show and it's great. It's about, honestly, I let the guest take it in any which way they like. You can ask anything, you can take it, you can do poetry, you can do comedy, whatever you want to showcase to people in the corner of this world. This hour and 45 minutes, it's all about Shy.
Thank you.
So I'm just,
Thank you for, I guess, yeah, for making the space to do this. And yeah, I think that the beautiful, wonderful thing about the internet and content like this is, as you say, in some corner of the world, somebody somewhere might stumble upon it. And it's not about trying to reach hundreds of thousands of listeners. It's about like the one person, which is what feels very poetry like, in how we approach performance in poetry, which is that like it's not about winning things and resonating with everyone and getting the most number of snaps in the room. Um, Unless you're Lane, then it is about getting the most number of snaps in the room. Um, it's about resonating with one person who, when you get off the stage or when you get off this podcast, might you might find out someday that you did something. You motivated them to perform, you motivated them to start writing, you motivated them to leave their partner, you motivated them to leave an unhappy workplace. It makes so much of a difference to know that that resonates.
sometimes, quite often, the unseen benefits. Sometimes it's the words that we hear in a poem or somebody's behavior. It might just be to rearrange our thought patterns alone. That the way we see things externally, you might not see a change, but
Yeah,
there's people have a lot of those changes which we never hear about or you don't see, but it's happening.
yeah, yeah. And
Just by listening
it's
to
meant to.
your narrative on how you push yourself or you go out, I'm even think it's changing my framework on how I would see things, even in the smallest way. But those small ways, that giant oak tree starts with a tiny seed.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. It's um I think you're here watering those seeds, and that's really wonderful. So thank you.
Um, Shai, I really enjoy talking to you
Yeah.
because, and at gigs, you're busy and you are so active, even there, even when you're there with your clipboard running around, this, that, and the other. We don't, and I've really enjoyed this chat, and I keep getting drawn in. I'm gonna shut up and let you just showcase some more of your work, so that I
Yeah.
want people to know the depth and the width of the breadth of your the topics that you write on your talents, literally, because I've really I could talk to you till the cows come home because I
Same.
find the intellectual level I'm on the uh, I am aligned to the way your way of thinking because I think very much the same. So I know I can. I'm probably being selfish here, and I've probably taken a lot of time on these conversations, but that's me being selfish as well. I really have enjoyed
Me
the
too.
chat. But please, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut a bit more and let you just showcase some of your more of your work.
I Oh my God, I don't know what to read, because I kind of feel like reading small pieces
Yeah.
that but then they don't really like make sense when you try to put them all together. Um Maybe I'll just read one that I wrote recently that is, well, I haven't read this one out on a mic, which is why I'm like, oh, well, maybe I can see. I really like it, and I like that it's fresh, and I like that it's positive, and it's um when I was in Cairns recently, I was there for a conference, the Australian Cairns,
Mhm.
um, and uh, there was this really ugly coffee cup that said "A good day starts with good coffee," and the coffee was terrible. And so that's the title of this poem. A good day starts with good coffee. And I wrote it to be about my local coffee shop in Melbourne that I really love, because I really like sitting there in the window and writing poetry and journaling and watching people walk by and never being stopped.
Mm.
Sometimes mornings are slow. They're slow like they need to be, mochas in hand, lowdowns from baristas, green ivy in the tickling windows. Sometimes mornings are just for you, for the storm to settle inside your chest and the rage to decide if it must swim, or the walls that play Tetris again as they decide up or down today. Sometimes mornings are a ticking landmine, slowly hiding in the calm of a field, waiting for you to step up or step on it before the ticking turns in a torrent of busy feet and furrowed brows, giant headphones and train announcements, beating hearts of the beaten down that got up again to keep going for one more day. Sometimes mornings are gasping for air, an alarm that never quite sounds, and blood pumping in your ears as you beg the clock to turn its back to lie and say you have more time, that the world is still asleep, and last night's stars are at your feet with the moon lingering still, one button promising more time. Sometimes the morning goes forever, fingers against soft cotton, eyes against conjuring daydreams of a new lover, blue records names into pillows, making you feel like a giddy teenager. And others it goes in the blink of a bus, smashing into a muddy puddle in a rainy forecast that promised to be slow, but promises are meant to be letdowns because that is what they teach in my mother tongue, that you must not trust what you cannot control, and you must not control what is not yours. So maybe if this one little morning in all the days of this very long year, maybe if this little sunrise is yours, peeking behind a building, buying us both time, we can trust today will be ours.
So much behind that in the lines that I love stuff that I can reflect on, almost meditate on. I love lines like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
From a coffee shop instance, from what you see, I used to do this a lot to take time out to watch
yeah,
busy ants out there. But nowadays, I'm one of those busy ants that don't,
yeah,
I just don't. And you just reminded me again. Remember, I was saying sometimes how you can change your frame. You just urged me to take time out again from self because I'm always there for other people and I'm always there with work or something. Whether I don't got no times with work. Sometimes 10, 11 in the night I finish work or
yeah,
sometimes I've got to force myself to take time to do those little things. And as you said, sitting by your coffee shop window, how you can trigger your own thoughts.
yeah. And I think like it seems like all my pieces recently, I haven't been writing a lot, but any pieces that I have sat down that have poured out of me has been um about being about not romanticizing the hustle and
Mm,
about um why is it so mediocre or why do we think that it's so mundane to stand on a street and just stare at a tree while waiting for a tram?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
when I'm at my best and I'm not feeling overloaded by burnout and gym and the to-do list and comedy and the poetry and work and everything that there is to do, which everyone has a really busy life. When I'm not feeling that, when I'm feeling generally balanced or I'm on holiday, I so often can be moved to
mm,
tears by a bird. Like I'll observe a bird doing something in a tree and doing something nurturing, and I will be almost in tears and snapped out of it, being like, "You're crying at a tree again, you psycho."
mm,
But it, yeah, when we don't make time for that, there's no time to stop and look at it. But there's also no time to, even if I have forced myself to go, just stop and look at a tree, you'll be fine.
mm,
You can't, when there's no emotional or brain capacity for it,
mm.
you can't find that. And I think so often at coffee shops, sitting in windows or writing at wine bars is I don't know if you find this, but a lot of writer friends that I talk to find that when we get asked, how do I write poetry or how do I write? Tell me, I want to do it too. We're like, first you procrastinate for 2 hours. And I know that that's the running joke. And I think it is the running joke because it's part of the process to do
Mm,
nothing for 2 hours. Our brains are so busy
mm,
that
mm.
you kind of have to do nothing to clear it.
Yeah.
And there's some exercises in what's her name? It's sitting right there. Um no, I think I gave it to Vanessa actually. The Right for Life chick who wrote Art The Artist's Way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
Mm,
then wrote The Writer's Way 3-4 years ago. And there's a lot of worksheets in it. But she says the same thing that she says in The Artist's Way, which is that like you just she does morning pages and she encourages people to do morning pages every day. And she's like, it's not a journal entry, it's not it's not a journal entry, it's not an exercise, it's not a poet, it's not poetry. I just you just sit and write stream of consciousness, what is coming to your head as a warm-up exercise. Name three things in the room. And Katie Lohner, the hungry poet, who's in the Melbourne scene, and she's co-hosts Mother Tongues, one of my favorite, weirdest, most bizarre poets. Um, when I sat next to her at a writing retreat recently with Fleecy, that Fleecy Malay was hosting, I sat next to Katie, and I looked at Fleecy, said, "Here's the prompt, start your exercise." And I tried to like grab her book to read because we just have this little like childlike poking each other friendship. Um, I like grabbed her book at the end to be like, "Let me read what you wrote." And I just couldn't stop laughing because she had literally written gibberish. It was like beepity bopadoo, bopada, bapa, bopadoop. And I was like, "Katie, are you having a stroke? What is this?" And she was like, this is don't like this is my warm up.
Mm.
And I was like, "This is amazing. Like you're just sitting here and writing non-English or any language words and your warm up, and it is your brain exercise, and it's so beautiful and to have access to everyone. It's a privilege to have this much access to see what everyone else's thing is, and mine is truly just like staring out into thin air at
Mm.
something and at strangers, and then like writing a line and pausing and then writing a line and then pausing, and like it's so much bullshit before you actually write
Yeah,
something.
yeah. I'm fortunate nowadays because I live by myself. So quite often, like last night, I finished work at about 8:30. Had a shower, had something to eat, and I usually have my whole room in darkness, and I
Yeah.
listen to music.
Yeah.
And within minutes, I've drifted off into a world, and then I find these lines coming to my head, and then I just scribble them down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
And
I
the other
wish I could do
time,
that.
one of the other few times where I can turn my mind off is when I'm having a shower. We go get under that hot shower,
Yeah,
and damn it, all these lines are coming into my
I
head.
know.
So
Oh my God, do you know the number of times that I've thought about like a shower board or like a shower marker? And for my birthday this year, my best friend actually like found a shower marker for me. um, and where you can write on the
yeah,
glass or you can write on the walls and stuff. And I haven't used it because I'm not. I think the shower is probably one of my only sacred places. But the same thing, I think so many shower thoughts come
yeah. When was your birthday, may I ask?
in September. I'm a Virgo.
All right, so it wasn't. So you got one coming up soon.
Yeah, I guess I have one coming up soon. When's your birthday? What's your star sign?
July, Cancer.
Wow. I can see Cancer. Yeah, I can see that for you.
I've got a Cancer Sun, Cancer Moon. Um, one of my cardinal rules I learned, like the full moon affects me like crazy,
Yeah,
and water. I love the. I'm a child of the ocean. I love the water.
yeah,
Right, in 4 5 Ks. I just love the water.
yeah.
One of my cardinal rules is never be near an ocean or a river or a lake on a full moon because you asked me for the world, I would give you that world. I would don't know how to say no. So because my emotions is so open, I'm like a pincushion. So especially if I'm dating somebody, I make sure that on a full moon we don't go anywhere near water because they ask me for anything, I'd say yes. So
I love that. That's good to know. I will make sure that if I run into your future partners, I give them that information to get what they need out of you.
as they say, man's got to know his
Man's
limitations.
gotta know his limitations. Exactly.
So, should we get into another poem?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do, we've talked a lot about, yeah, let's just do what we, yeah, I'll do the one I was just talking about. I am tired of being angry. And I'm angry that I am tired, and in the sheer pain of this exhaustion, I am screaming into more blank voids, hoping I will find answers as I bang keys or smush the tips of pens till ink blots. Like I will find meaning mid rant, or the epiphanies we are so often sold will magically appear. That I will somehow learn that the world can be a terrifying place, and I can be having a wonderfully hellish time. that all these emotions can amount to something unputdownably Schrodinger, that two things can be true. Maybe this is how we are born, in this state of overwhelm, knowing everything ahead of us is unknown. That we might have the best time of it, the worst of it, or simply just another passing moment. And right now, I would murder. Metaphorically, of course, just for one mundane minute. To hear the birds chirp and the bees land on petals, to watch a tree have a reaction to the wind, to feel cool breeze tangled with hot sun on my skin. P.S. What is mundane about that? Why is it not entirely astonishing that we can exist in this dichotomy and enjoy it? Why do we call that ordinary but romanticize burnout? We keep begging for better tomorrows while hoarding hope like it's something we have to earn. But maybe all we need is permission to stand still without always needing to prove ourselves, to fix it, to change something, or to push through, without needing the best version of ourselves instead of just enjoying how far we've come. Maybe the struggle is proof we're still here. Maybe there's grace in the trying, feeling, fighting, figuring it out. And maybe we won't ever have it all together. And maybe the point isn't finding the answer, it's just learning to live with the question.
So many empowering and encouraging sort of sentiments through that, Shai. A lot of things that we forget. I myself used to take a lot of time. I'd go out hiking the Bogong High Plains or wherever. Sometimes I don't see a human being for 2 weeks. I'd be in the wilderness there by myself and my thoughts. But then as you get caught up in the corporate world more and more, I find less and less time to do those things.
Yeah, yeah,
When I took 10 years, I literally took some time off when I was working for Defence Science and Technology and I travelled around Australia. In the end, I ended up travelling for 10 years. 10 years, and I
years.
left here in 87 and I came back to Melbourne in 97, 96. Yeah, I was just on the road living with the wind. There were times where I was on islands where I was a sole human being, right? Now,
Yeah,
I find 5 minutes for myself and I live alone. Right?
it's wild, isn't it? How we will literally do anything but what we know to be good for our
Yeah.
brains.
My son's grown up, he's 28. I've got no little kids, no responsibilities. I've got no wives to worry about. I live alone, but I don't find time to be alone in here because I'm either working,
Yeah,
doing this. Like today, once I finish this show, I'll start creating the YouTubes, I'll start creating the podcast, blah, blah. Suddenly, you know, it's Saturday evening. Yeah.
yeah, it's that's what happens. Like we
Yeah.
let time pass us by so quickly, and then we kind of turn around and go, I tried to fit all of these things in,
Yeah.
and I think I'm guilty of doing this on a holiday too,
Yeah.
instead of just going like I'll feel guilty that I spent all morning at one cafe or in bed at a hotel in like one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And I kind of have to remind myself, like, you're here on a holiday. Like, you don't have to fit 700 things into the itinerary just because some listicle you read online told you you have to do this when you're in Paris.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. We become so, yeah, sometimes we get conditioned with the wrong things sometimes, you know. Yeah, we're here to live as well, you know, and
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes just go and sit in a park or in a wilderness where there's no human beings with your back against the tree. Just you reminded me of something about before with the piece from the coffee shop. In my first book, I got pieces like Tree of Wisdom, and I remember I was actually in Cairns, sitting there looking at this big tree, and I just and that it's called Tree of Wisdom on how that tree, what the way it lives its life, and how I can learn from it. Then I see this butterfly. When I love the Ulysses butterfly, and I was up in North Queensland at that time. I was near Mission
Yeah.
Beach, and I was working on this resort, labouring, and this called the Ulysses Resort, and abundant those Ulysses butterflies. And I end up writing this thing, The Flight of the Butterfly. And I found I was reflecting on from the caterpillar eating away at those leaves, and then it becomes a prisoner within that cocoon, and then out of that comes. And I
Ah,
wrote this thing, The Flight of the Butterfly, and it's all in my first book. In my second book, uh, I don't think there's many like that at all. You know,
interesting.
so
What is what do you cover more in your second book?
more about lives and about life. I mean, the first one's about life, as a lot of the life skills as well. Then what we learn through different events in our life, generally relationships. That might be a work relationship, might be a friendship, might be emotional relationship. Second book's probably more about that, but about the more the spiritual learning, the inner learning,
Yeah,
not religious by any means, but more that inner learning from an event.
I think it is it's interesting because it's like on one hand I see that like that we are having this conversation and um that yeah it could be because you haven't slowed down and um y- that you that it's more about your inner world than the outer world because you haven't been experiencing much of the outer world. um but I also think maybe the first book was a warm up.
Well, that
And maybe it was like a warm up in like vulnerability. Like it's harder to start by putting yourself out in the world. But if you put the world out in the world and they like it, then maybe they're ready for you.
yep. So the first one was Life, the Journey of the Soul, and the second one was Growth, Enlightenment of the Soul.
Yeah.
And now the third one that I'm working on is Love, the Soul Finds Peace.
I love
So
that. I
yeah,
love that.
but
Where can people find your book?
generally Amazon. But for local people, I just say don't go to Amazon because I usually got a heap of copies here, and I just do them for literally saves all the postage, and I get them at a slightly discounted rate to what Amazon sells them at, so forth. If Amazon's like $20 then plus postage, I got some at author copies from my publisher, Balboa Press. And normally, if anybody wants a copy, I just go them $15 each, signed to them, as opposed to paying 20,
Yeah, of
23 bucks
course. Well,
Amazon.
please bring some to the next poetry night at Vibe Union. Like, I'll definitely, I want my hands on one.
It'll be an honor to gift you.
No,
You read
let me pay for your work. You
these.
worked hard on it.
But yeah, look, I think it's a good reminder. And as I said, you always learn, even from this interaction that we've gone for an hour and a half on, through your work, through our conversations, you remind me of things that, hey, fella, take a breath, make room for things that were important to you, that are still important to you. It's, your own glass has to be full before you can quench the thirst of another, right? And
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I
I can't.
forget
I'm
that.
trying to recall something someone said to me last week in conversation, and I responded like a poet by snapping my fingers. But it was it was adjacent to that, but it was, I think it was something about like ah, it slips me. It was about a teapot, and it was very much like you can't like if. But I think we were also talking about the fact that like we talk a lot about filling our cup,
Mm,
and when you've sometimes I feel like sometimes you can overfill your cup, and like there is such a thing as too much of like not even a good thing, just like too much looking for like enriching experiences and like too much chasing like connection and like sometimes like what you actually just need to do is like sit back and recharge and like lie down in your room and watch TV all day. And like, I think part of the torturous cycle that is like an artist's life is to constantly be looking, even our rest has to be
mm,
productive. We're
mm,
like, I need to be inspired by this rest. And it's
mm.
like, no, actually, you just need to take a nap or stare at a wall or watch really bad TV.
Yeah.
Like, you just need to shut your brain off.
I'll give you a bit of insight into how my mind works. So, the old your cup must be full before you can quench the thirst of another. That's been around. That's an old, through the martial arts, whatever, everything. It's a line that's been around forever. The way my mind works is it'll take that and it'll dissect it. And yes, it sees the merit. But then my mind will also take the other way that while my cup is full for me to be able to quench the thirst of another, I also need to readily empty my cup. So I've met you before over the last year and a half, something like that. I knew about you. When I come to this show today, I emptied my cup of everything that I knew about Shy, so that I'm hearing and absorbing every word that you're pouring into me. Because
Yeah.
otherwise my cup was full, half of it just runs down the side of
Yeah. Yeah.
the glass. So I lost her. I think she must have hit the exit button. Very easy to do on Instagram. Hopefully she comes back in the room. Yep, she's back. You swipe yourself off.
Sorry. I didn't even know
That's
how
all
to
right.
fit that.
Yeah, and I think that's very important to me. It's very important to be able to empty your mind of things as well, so as we wipe away preconceptions. So when I came to this today, I did not know what Shire was gonna bring to the table. You know.
Yeah. And I think that's really honestly an exercise that I could probably do. So thank you. I've just learned something. Um, Especially when we kind of cross paths with so many people that we might be a fan
Mm,
of. We might be a fan of their work or, yeah, their performance, or like, yeah, they might be around the scene, or yeah, I walk in, and even in the advertising industry, like you hear so many like names that are industry people, and you walk in with this predisposed notion of like who they are and like what they're about, and you might have like heard a podcast they were on or read an article and you think you know about them. But
yeah,
yeah, I like that. I like the concept of kind of clearing the decks on everything you know about someone so that they can show up as who they are right
yeah,
then.
yeah. Takes away any biases or anything like that, right? Or any. Yeah. Now, as we're nearing the end of the show, I wanted to say to you, Shai, as I say to a lot of my guests, this is only the first time and it doesn't have to be the last time. So, as you've got things coming up, now I know through your bio you're working on a couple of books as well and things like that. Now, when you have publish those books, or if you've got any big events coming up, feel free to tap me on the shoulder and say, Rainier, in a couple of months I'll be doing this. Love to get on the show, and let's feature that and broadcast that. As you know, I usually book people 6, 8 weeks ahead, so
Yeah,
you know something's coming up. Feel free to reach out. It's been a pleasure having you here, and I hope you've enjoyed
I
the experience. And
so thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you so much for this time.
uh, it's an open door, right? So when you got things coming up or anything you want to
I
share,
will. Yeah.
tap me on the show. I've got a lady. The next show in 2 weeks' time is a lady from Canada that I'd featured on here before. I've known her for a couple of years. An amazing poet, and she's started. She's a mother of um, um, special needs, two special need kids. One got autism, the other one, the girl has had a rare heart disease. A beautiful, lovely family. She and her husband and the two kids are beautiful. So she's had her challenges through that. And she goes under the title of Mindful Warriors. And she started this group and these courses that she runs for um, mental health groups for mothers in high stresses or undergoing different stuff. So I'm having featuring her where we're just going to focus like her poetry. She's a published author, but last time we spoke on her poetry and about life. But this time we're just going to focus on what this new thing she started online or in person where these mental health courses, just reference materials and um, a, like a group sort of thing to help people going through challenges who don't have access to
Yeah,
other help.
love
So it's
that.
you're a very active lady in many aspects. You know, whether you're if you're doing something on brown women's poetry or any events like that, you want to come and talk about that, and feel free to tap me on the shoulder.
I will, absolutely. Thank you so much for this time and yeah, for spotlighting
It's
me.
And what with the show too, what I find in the last 6 months, people who don't get a chance to attend the room or watch when it's posted, 3, 4 weeks later they're watching, which it's a big ask for somebody to go and watch somebody for an hour and 45 minutes, nearly 2 hours to go and re-watch it to make time
Yeah,
for you. And then they're responding, hey, that guest. So it's great. So as I said, you don't know who will see
yeah,
it. So
that's great. I love that.
it's and a lot of great poets that I know, like Tom DeSaro. I featured him a few weeks ago. He's an amazing person. John Michael's just come in the room. They've been in and out of the room,
Yeah,
and I know a lot of people will watch this from the US mainly, Canada, UK. So um, it's great, and as I said, I always handpick the people I bring in, and you have not disappointed at all. And it's been a pleasure getting to know the aspects of Shy that we don't normally uh, get an opportunity to see or talk
yeah,
about when
yeah.
we're.
Thank you. I mean, it's been a pleasure, and thank you for creating a space that it didn't feel like I had to do only my best poems, and I felt comfortable sharing new shit and not necessarily polished shit, just like something to show you who I am and how I'm feeling in the moment. So thank you for
And
that.
Raw is good, you know. I, I live life. I don't want to. I don't want to show you what I want you to see. I want to show you me, and then you decide whether you want to hang around me or you don't. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I, I do not wear any cloaks of colors. You know, I'm me.
I like that. I feel like you're full of these little wisdoms, and if I was sat across you with a laptop, I would just be like, I'm writing that down as a prompt. I'm writing that down as a prompt.
Now, um, we, shall we go to a closing piece?
Yes, let's go to a closing piece, which I don't know if I want to upset myself this early on the weekend. Um, by reading about Palestine. But I'll read something, I guess, yeah, a little bit angry, but then ends hopeful rather than reading. I do have the piece about Palestine. I think the it's complicated piece and the scroll piece on my Instagram. So anyone who wants to watch it can kind of watch it there. It's the lovely Faris Mindal, who has been filming a lot of beautiful performances and like at all the slams and some of the poetry nights, filmed it and gave it to me generously so I could put it up. So yeah, um, that's where some of my best work is. This stuff is new and it's a rough around the edges. I don't know if this is the right thing. How could anyone know what's right in a place that's made an art of getting it wrong? In a time where wrong is right and rights are right, the wings flying into the extremes, the middle nowhere to be seen, there is nothing but humans screaming for bloody murder, grand plans, grand larceny, grandiose, granted access when the system that invented it is the one who stole the land in which they delivered the sentence daily. One, sit silently in your freedom. Two, leave the past in the past. Three, stay grateful. Four, use it for your art, but not to fight back. 5. Dance monikers dance like some humiliating guessing game. Victory is a dream so far away now the mirage is stinging our eyes, and although we did not have much, but a rug, a notebook, a chewed pen, and some rope, we decided to untie the noose and use it to save each other. Connection helped us connect the dots. We crawled the tight rope on our bleeding knees, but we made it. We made it, and we are home for 1 second. The mutual gaze, the crinkled smile on a street, at a workplace. In this mess, we look up and we connect. And we are home in ourselves with each other. And that is what it means when they say joy is resistance. Because yes, the fire they started is still going, but we get to choose whether we keep ourselves warm with it or go forth and get burnt again.
Damn, so many profound, profound truths in sentiments that it's so easy to forget, like we get to choose, you're right, everything, we get to choose if we want to be, how we want to respond to it, how we should feel about it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
everything is our choice, right?
Everything is our choice.
The stage, life is just that stage that gives us the opportunity to learn within on how we react. I see that. Should I be angry? Should I be sad? Should I be happy? What am I going to do about it? Then it gives me the authority to see how I feel, and then it gives me to decide what do I want to do in response. Is it nothing? Is it something? Should I do something? Should I not? It's
Yeah. I guess it's like maybe I spent the first 2 years of this art journey in rage, and that didn't feel so sustainable. And now, I mean, the community has brought me so much hope and connection, and like solidarity in our rage, that it's built this like I don't know, resentful hope inside me.
yeah,
That I didn't necessarily, it's not necessarily productive for my writing, because I find it hard to sit in cynicism for too long, because I know it not to be true that the world is a terrible place. I actually think it's quite a wonderful place.
yeah, yeah. Sir Lawrence, who I featured recently, as he said, stay warm with it or get burned again.
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
Here's a young friend that I met this young gentleman, Santosh, he's somewhere in India. He writes some amazing stuff, and I remember when I used to run some open mics, I've met him there probably a year and a half, probably 2 years ago, and even he's come in here, and so there's people from all over the globe here on this who have been in and out of the room and who will also probably watch it later. So,
Great.
I hope that the right people. Watch this, the people who can glean support, encouragement from your words, from not just in the poetry, but in hearing about you and how you take life on. What do how you don't limit yourself, you push yourself, as I said, even trying to be in two places at one time.
Yeah. Thank
And I, for
thank you.
one, cannot speak highly enough and how privileged we are to have people like you, Haley, Jason, Ryan, all that within our community that does so much behind the scenes. I know how much work this takes for me to do, but what you guys do week in, week out, physically running around when you're living a physical life, you still got to eat, you got to work, you got to do normal living chores, right?
Yeah.
But make time, and we're blessed. The community, the people, even ones who come there week in, week out in the audience, we're blessed to have people like yourself, Jason, who do so much for us.
And
We really are.
we're blessed to have people like you platforming artists, as a successful author and artist yourself. So thank
It's
you.
It's thank you to everybody in the room who's been in and out. As I say each week, your comments and all are very encouraging and helps the featured guests to give off themselves. Otherwise, it's like looking at a blank wall and talking to yourself, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
And Shy, I'm disappointed it's taken me so long to get you on the show, but nevertheless, all good things wait to come to those who wait,
Yeah,
and it's been a pleasure having you and an honor. And
same.
my while I respect your work, your talents, your skills, and what you do, I also respect and appreciate your energy, you as a person. And thank you for the privilege of allowing me to get to know you through this last hour and 50 minutes, to see that side of Shy that we don't get to see at events and so forth.
Thank you. It's been a really good start to my weekend, so thank you so much for having me.
Remember, it's only the first time and it's any time and always there for
Yes,
you. If I can help in any way, you just got to tap me on the shoulder.
absolutely.
Anything you up, you want to promote it, whatever, reach out.
100%. Thanks, Rainier.
When I've posted this, I'll add you as a collaborator so you're free to put it on your own page as
Yeah,
well.
cool.
And as soon as I've done the YouTube and the podcast, I will send you the links to those as well. And feel free to use them. There's nothing about rights. You can use it. This is about you. This is not my show. This is about
Thank
you. This
thank
is
you.
Shy.
Thank you so
Right?
much.
Heartfelt thanks, my friend. And
Right
keep
back at you.
you. And thanks for everything you do and keep being you. Look forward to seeing you at Creatures.
Yeah, I'll see you next week.
Yeah, will do.
All right.
Will do.
Bye.
Stay blessed.
Bye,
Stay safe.
everyone.